So we thought we'd just have a little review of our time in Norway and tell you how much things cost and what we found useful. And the first thing we want to do is tell you about the costs. And in total, I can't see, we spent £3,000 and oh, I haven't got my glasses. £68.
£66.
£66.27. Haven't got my glasses on, sorry. And the biggest expense was fuel. So over £1,000 of that was fuel, and we're not really surprised because we've done over 4,500 miles, haven't we?
We have, yes.
So that's not a major surprise for us, really.
Okay.
Sorry, go on, carry on.
No. So camping, we spent 13 nights actually in campsites or in paid camping.
Out of 48 nights.
Out of 48 nights, and we spent £380 on that. Now, of those 13 nights, 3 were at Bergen. And Bergen, we couldn't find anywhere that we could free camp anywhere in and around the area. No. So that's why we stayed there. 2 were at Pulpit Rock. And again, we couldn't actually find anywhere in and around Pulpit Rock to stay. So again, that's why we camped there. And 2 were for when Jill did her marathon.
Because I wanted a hot shower when I'd finished the marathon. I said to Roger, we booked that way back when we started booking this trip. I said, I need to have a campsite with a hot shower that I can go to when I've had my marathon. And that was very good. I was glad we did that. It was a nice big shower and it was perfect. So that was 7 nights altogether then, wasn't it?
So that's 7 nights out of the 13. The remaining 6 nights, most of those were actually at the beginning of our trip.
They were, yeah.
We were still learning at that stage, and it was very much a case of, okay, we'll do a couple of nights wild camping and then spend a night in a campsite. In hindsight, we probably wouldn't do that again.
No, we don't need to. No.
Part of the reason was Jill was actually doing a lot of running in practice for the marathon, so she had her running kit, and we wanted to go to places that actually had tumble dryers, washing machines. But in the end, we actually decided that we were actually just going to wash stuff as we went and hang it. We've actually got a very good little line that we can hang under the awning, and things, because it's been such lovely weather, things have been drying very quickly.
Yeah, they have.
So yeah, in hindsight, we wouldn't have done those additional days.
No, we wouldn't have spent as many, but that's, you live and learn, don't you, really?
We do. Right, next thing on there is food and drink.
Now, because of my little problem being no gluten and no lactose, we have to be quite careful with what I can eat. So we haven't eaten out very much, but we've certainly bought what we wanted in shops, haven't we? And we spent £770 on food and drink for 48 nights, which isn't too bad at all.
Yeah, it is a bit more expensive in Norway.
Yeah, food is more expensive in Norway, definitely. I would say about 25% more expensive than at home.
Yeah, indeed. But, as you say, you've got to learn these things, and it's one of those things.
It is, yeah.
We did bring a fair bit with us. So we stuffed Henry as much as possible with bits and pieces, mainly, again, because of Jill's allergies. We just wanted to make sure we could find what we needed. Yeah. But we've been very lucky with a lot of the supermarkets that have had lacto-free, gluten-free sections, and you've been able to find things that you want generally.
Yeah. And the next expense that we had, which was quite big, was ferries and public transport. Now, we spent £391 on the ferries, but that includes one ferry that wasn't part of the ferry pass. It includes our ferry pass as well, which we would definitely suggest getting one. Yeah,
ferry pass was absolutely brilliant. You just literally, every ferry you get to, or 99% of the ferries you get to, you rock up, they take a photograph of your number plate, they then ascertain that you are on the ferry pass, and you get 50% off your ferry pass. It's brilliant.
And that was £391, but that also included the ferry from Denmark to Norway, which was 260 something. So that wasn't too bad at all, was it really?
And we had to put a specific amount on our ferry pass. I can't remember exactly how much it was.
£200?
£200. I think we've only spent about half of that, so we should be getting half of that back again anyway. So we should be getting £100 of that £391 back again. So so that's great.
And then it was various miscellaneous things. So we've got tickets and entertainment going into museums, into churches, that kind of thing.
And we went on a boat tour.
We went on a boat tour on the fjord as well. That was nearly £200.
Clothes washing, as I say, because we went to a lot of campsites at the beginning, we generally did washing of clothes. Now, campsites seem to fall into two categories, didn't they?
They did.
One which was very expensive washing of clothes, and the second was free washing of clothes.
So some of them it's included in your campsite price, and some of them it isn't. So you just have to choose where you're going, and if you do a bit of research, it'll tell you online whether it includes things like that or not, really, won't it?
Yes.
We also had travel as well, which was No, we haven't got anything in the travel department, have we? We've got public transport, which was going into Bergen. When we did that for 2 days in a row on the bus, that was fine.
That was £25, so
Yeah.
again, that's not too bad for the
And
two of
road
us.
tolls, £69.29 in Norway in total. Actually, we've got a little bit more to come on that one, haven't we? Because we'll have July's one, but that'll probably be another £20 or £30, I'm sure.
If that.
If that. So, you know, and actually, I think £3,066 is a bit of a steal, really.
Yeah,
for the time we spent in Norway.
48 days, that works out at £63.88 a day, which, you know, people say Norway's very expensive. Having spent 48 nights there and spent that amount of money, no. And we've not scrimped or anything.
No, not at all.
You know, we've gone through it and done what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And, yeah, no, it's been great.
So what would we advise, if you were coming to Norway, what would we advise you to do? Well, there are a few things that we would definitely advise. The first one, which we just said, is about get a ferry pass. And we tried one company and they didn't actually send one through in the end, but flight, excellent. We got it in about 2 weeks and they were so helpful with setting up the system, weren't they? So
that's FLYT.
They were very, very useful.
And they were very good. They were very good. And as you say, we got it very quickly. So that was great.
The other thing we would say is, particularly if it's crowded, because it's sunny or because it's light all the time, just get up early and go places. Get up at 5 in the morning and be at places at 6 in the morning or whatever, because actually you will find that it makes a huge difference. I mean, when we were getting up at 5 in the morning, we were finding there was no traffic on the roads at the beginning either.
No.
First couple of hours, there's nobody else around, which is great.
To be honest, so we started this trip in beginning of May, and it was actually quite quiet there.
It was.
Around. It started to get busy when we got to June, but we also got to the Lofoten Islands at the same time. So again, as I've said before, I don't know whether it's because we're in June now, whether it's the Lofoten Islands, combo of both, it could well be. But as Jill said, we were getting up at 5 in the morning, and the Lofoten Islands was absolutely heaving for most of the time. 5 o'clock in the morning, there was nobody around at all.
No,
it was great. You could go and see villages with nobody there.
Yeah, it made a huge difference, huge difference. The other thing on our list is Google Translate. On Roger's phone, he has downloaded Google Translate, because unless you're a fluent Norwegian speaker, it's not the easiest language to master, I would be honest.
No.
And particularly when we're trying to shop for things that don't have wheat in, don't have lactose in, it made a huge difference. You literally, if you've got it, you point your phone at it, you can actually take a picture of the text and it will tell you what is in there, which is fantastic.
It is. You don't need to take a picture of the text. Literally, you just point your phone at it and it will read whatever's on there, and whether that's ingredients, whether it's a
menu.
A menu. We've been to lots of places, and there's most places have details about things in Norwegian and English.
Yep.
But there are some places that don't. They only have them in Norwegian, which is fair enough. So again, you point your phone at whatever it might be, whether it's a tourist point or whatever, and it will just say what it is in English. It's just brilliant, I have to say. It's a free app.
And the parking actually is quite interesting, because generally they don't have the parking instructions in English. So having that for that was really useful, wasn't it?
Yes. So Google Translate, yep, highly recommend.
The other thing we'd say is that cash is definitely not king here. Everybody says cash is king, not in Norway. Everybody and everywhere. We've not found one single place that does not accept card.
No.
From the tiniest street vendors to the biggest museums or whatever, everywhere accepts card, and they much prefer you paying with card than cash.
And also, a lot of the petrol stations are unmanned.
Yeah.
The only way you can actually get fuel is by paying on card.
Yep.
So that seems to be, I would say, probably 75% of the fuel stations we've been to, totally unmanned. You just rock up, you tell the little machine which pump you're at, and it will then say, that's fine, fill up as much as you want to.
Particularly north of Bergen, I'd say that was very true. You know, most of them pump petrol stations in the middle of absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, and as you say, it's just a pump. You just put your card in and that's sorted, isn't it?
Yes. And while we're talking about fuel prices, kind of odd, aren't they?
They are a bit strange.
So we have paid anything from 17.6 krona to about 23 krona, which works out about £1.40 to £2.
£1.60ish, something like
that. And the reason for that doesn't seem to be obvious at all. It's not the station, it's basically the day.
Yeah.
So I was reading up about it, and what some people say is the fact that all the fuel companies put their prices up on day one, and then throughout the week each fuel station is in competition with each other, and the individual fuel stations will then drop their prices. So what you might find is that on day one it's 17 krona. On day 2 is 23 krona.
Mm.
There's no rhyme or reason. So basically, again, what we're suggesting is if you actually see cheap fuel, get it. Doesn't matter how much you've actually got.
Because you can come back 2 or 3 hours later and find the price has gone up 3 or 4 krona quite easily.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. So the other thing we would definitely get you to do is to download the Park for Night app. That has been a lifesaver for us. We have found places on our own, but just knowing that there are other places out there that you can find on Park for Night has made a massive difference. And most of them have been lovely. And it's just so easy. Just think, okay, put in it around me or around there or whatever, and it's just so simple. It's all the options come up, and you can choose which spaces you want.
So Park for Night again is a free app.
Yep.
And what it has is somebody has recommended a space, and once that person's recommended a space, other people will then chime in with the date that they've been there to say, okay, how many stars would you give it?
Yeah.
And some people will say, actually, didn't like this space. It was full of rubbish at the time. There were lots of people there. Or other people will actually say, no, that space is now closed. You can't get to it. But generally, people will then say, actually, that's a wonderful space. The ones that we've been in.
Yeah.
Give it 4 or 5 stars. We've gone through, had a look and thought, yeah, that's the space for us. And if you watched any of our videos, you will know how amazing some of the Park for Night spaces that we've been to have been.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. And again, the majority, we've been the only ones in there. There have been a couple that there have been other people there.
Yeah.
One in particular where somebody decided to park about 6 inches away from our rear bumper. I actually had to get them to move because I couldn't open the rear doors. But other than that,
no, generally we've been the only people there, which has been wonderful, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been lovely.
And on parking, the reason we were able to free camp so much was because there are lots and lots of places where you can empty your grey tanks, you can empty your toilet cassette, and you can fill up with fresh water for free. Around Norway, there are loads of different places, and a lot of petrol stations, if you fill up with diesel, will also let you do that for free as well, particularly Esso petrol stations. And it's just wonderful. So you don't actually need to go into a campsite at all. You could probably do that every other day quite easily in Norway, couldn't you?
What we've done, and I would imagine most people who actually come to Norway, there's actually Norwegian scenic routes, and they're very good. Basically, they actually have what Norway recommends as their scenic routes, but they also have loos, and by loos, some of these loos are just incredible.
Yeah.
So, a loo's a loo, great, but they really do go out of their way to make them
architectural masterpieces. Some of them are, aren't
yeah,
they?
they
I
are,
think it's
very
fair
much
to say.
so. Very much so. So one of the loos we went into, basically you could turn a little knob and 1 minute you could actually see out the view, and the next minute it just completely blackens that glass and you can't see out, nobody can see in. And yeah, they've just been great, haven't
Yeah, they have.
And these have been every probably probably a couple of hours at most.
Yeah.
Some of them have been rather before that, but they're just all over the place, aren't they?
They are.
And
Very
it's
much
just been so easy to wild camp because of loos there and everything else.
And the other thing we wanted to say was the fact that wherever you do wild camp, you can get brilliant internet. We have found, I think, one place where we didn't have internet.
Yep.
And that has been it in the 48 nights. The rest of it has been fantastic, probably much faster internet than we get at home where we live in Cornwall.
Yep.
And it's just there. So, you can get your 4G or whatever you want, and it's just wonderful, isn't it, really?
It is, yeah. No, it's, as you might have been able to tell, again, anyone who's watched our videos previously, I love Norway.
It is the best country. The people are fantastic. If you're in a camper van, it is just ideal. It really is perfect if you're in a camper van because everything is set up so well for you. I would go back tomorrow, given half a chance. I think it's wonderful.
So the reason we spent 48 days in Norway and not any longer, obviously, we got to the furthest northern point and we've got to get home. Mm-hmm. Obviously, unfortunately, with the Schengen rules, we can only spend a maximum of 90 days in Europe. So we've got to get home. So we thought, okay, we'll spend 48 nights in Norway and the rest of the time we'll meander home, which is what we're currently doing through Sweden, and get home. But yeah, it's 48 nights to get from bottom to top was actually quite good, wasn't it?
It was very chilled out, very relaxed. If we wanted to stop, we did. If we wanted to go on, we did. It wasn't a problem, was it?
Yeah, you could do it quicker. You could do it a lot quicker.
Yeah, of course you could.
But yeah, it certainly wasn't too long.
No, not at all. Not at all. So I hope you've enjoyed that review and I hope you found it useful. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and send us a comment.